Well, welcome to my second ever podcast. I'm so excited to have my assistant with me for this one. She's also been my mentee for the past 8 months, so I thought it would be fun to ask her maybe some questions. I know I have a lot of people who follow me that have been following our journey. I think we gained probably 20 to 40,000 followers just from our mentor series on TikTok. So that was exciting to see that was such a big hit. And we can now continue it over on her page now that she has Olivia Julie Jones Designs on TikTok. So she started a page so we can watch her be successful in this career. So we're not all stuck on my page basically watching her. I'm excited to dive in a little bit, ask her questions that maybe will help some young designers too, some aspiring designers who want to come into this career, and they can maybe hear how you did it. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself first, who you are, how old you are, that'd be helpful. Then the first question maybe, what made you want to be an interior designer in the first place?
Hi everyone, my name is Olivia. I'm 20 years old and I am in my final year of interior design school. I also have a real estate license in the state of Florida, as well as a AA degree in business. What made me want to be an interior designer, it's really been ever since I was little. My parents have always been the DIYers, and there was always construction around any house we bought. It was a fixer-upper. So we lived in chaos a lot. My mom always, every time she finished a house, it was time to pack up, go to the next house, and we lived in chaos. So I really have always been around it. I've always been very into the arts, and I have always considered myself to be very creative. And at 15, I was able to help with the kitchen remodel, and that's what really made me want to get into interior design and start to research and see how this could really be a career for myself.
Okay, awesome. Yay, you did fabulous with your first question. I know you're nervous, but don't worry about it. You're just talking to me. Growing up then in constant demolition and remodel probably made you very comfortable with it, as far as
Yes.
It was kind of normal to have the house kind of ripped apart, and then your mom is a house flipper from what it sounds like.
My parents are.
Yes, it sounds like they are ready to, they can see potential in lots of things, and that's honestly what the main thing we need in this career to do is see the potential of spaces, see what they could be and what they're currently not reaching their potential. So I think that probably had a huge impact in that regard, of you being able to see your parents look at a house, see the potential in it, and then make that into fruition. So I can absolutely see I think that would affect your career path no matter what you chose. Wanting to be an interior designer, how did you get your foot in the door into the field? Because I know that is one of the hardest things to do for people.
Well, it started after the kitchen remodel. My mom decided to get me these little interior designer classes, just for fun classes. So it's like self-take classes, and I really loved everything about it. I loved all the topics. It was very interesting to me. I could sit there for hours and do the class. So as a senior in high school, I had to choose what I was going to do next. So I decided to look for colleges, and I found one of the only ones in Florida that offered interior design, and it was a little too expensive, and I had a really good cheerleading scholarship to a school across the country in Arizona. So I decided to take it because it was a great amount off on schools, but they did not offer interior design. So that's how I got my business degree. So that's why I just shuffled into that. So I finished off my business degree, and when I was waiting to find another college for interior design, I got my real estate license because I was bored and I needed something to do and something in the realm of just houses, buying and selling, renting. So I knew that would be something to keep in my back pocket no matter what I do and get my foot into the door of interior design.
Wow, that's incredible. At only 20, Olivia, that you have your business AA, and then you also have your real estate license, and now you're even going to school for interior design and almost done. These were one of the things that I saw on your resume that I was like, wow, this young woman is very motivated and
Yes.
obviously has a very good work ethic if she can accomplish all of this before she's 20 years old. So I knew that you would be an asset and would pretty much be able to handle whatever I threw at you. So when you were looking for schools, I know you're going to school now, and you're able to do it virtually and still be able to live in the city you want to live in, we'll say that,
Yes.
near family, and be able to do school online. And that's why also you have been able to kind of fast track it into a degree in the interior design realm. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, I know a lot of people are going to want to know, even though you went to school, the real question is how did you get into the field? How did you get your foot in the door for actual work and getting a paycheck?
So when I was in school, I had a lot of extra time on my hands since the classes were easy for me because I already had some experience in the world and in the classes that my mom let me take in high school. So I decided to go fully virtual in the school. They allowed me as long as I had a job in the interior design industry and were logging those hours. I looked for 7 months for a job, which was hard because I still needed the money to live. I was living on my own. I found that there's not a lot of opportunities, at least where I live, in the interior design industry. So after the 7 months, I finally found one job opening, and it was an hour drive from where I currently was living for school. And I decided to apply anyway because I knew I needed that experience and a change of pace in my life. And so I was really pushing to be in the industry and learn more hands-on.
Okay, so you found a job then under a designer in person, an hour
Yes.
away that you had to drive to. And then for reasons we don't have to share, but there are some other reasons. When you work for somebody, it's your job experience that you've been able to share with me. It heavily relies on who you work for and your experience as an assistant, and your experience as your first job in this field heavily relies on who you work for. So I know that there was reasons too that it was tough. The environment was tough there as far as personalities, but you did gain some real valuable lessons, I'm sure. Even having hard bosses, right? We learn a lot of valuable lessons. I've had many difficult managers and bosses in my life, even working retail for 4 years. Nothing against people who are retail managers, but it really helps you learn a lot about how to get along with people that you naturally probably wouldn't get along with. It's humbling to work for someone else and have to be kind of told what to do again, like a child sometimes. And you want to be an adult so badly too when you're young and getting a job, especially in this industry. You want to feel like you know what you're doing and you're capable, and then run into situations that humble you. So even though I know that was a little bit tough, that experience there, I'm sure you gained a lot of valuable life experience there. But that is one of the reasons that you've shared with me before of why you started looking elsewhere. Number one, the
Yes.
drive was very long, a lot of gas, a lot of time there and back, and then the environment there was not exactly kosher. So you started looking at maybe virtual jobs, so you didn't have to drive an hour, and
Yes.
it ended up in my inbox. And
Yes,
I've shared on TikTok before that I did not have one email from anyone asking if I needed an assistant. And that could be because they thought I may have already had one. That could be because they thought, oh, I'll never read their email, or I don't know why. I know I needed help. And it's very scary to have to try to go look and hunt for help. And then you came in my inbox, and I said, well, I don't have to actually look. Let me look at her resume. And so I know I waited several weeks before I reached back out to you after you came in my inbox. And I saw your resume, and I saw your opening email even to me and introducing yourself. I said, oh, I need to save this email. I was working, like 70 hours a week at the time, so I could not dedicate time to replying to emails as much as I needed to. So I saved it, and then a couple weeks went by, and I was like, oh, I desperately need an assistant. There's that one email I saved. Let me reach out and see if she wants this job, or at least can I interview her and see if we mesh and see if we could get along. And the rest is history. And I emailed you, I emailed Olivia, and she was so, as you can see, her demeanor, so kind and gentle. And then the things that she had in her career path really aligned up with what I needed. So I do think it was fate. And you also really wanted to learn, though. You really wanted to learn from me and pick my brain on anything and everything. And I was happy to give it. I'm happy to give any of my employees what's inside my head, as long as I can effectively communicate it. That's the hard part, is effectively communicating what's going on in my head and why I do things a certain way. TikTok and being online has definitely helped me do that, and to process my thoughts and get them shared in a way that will make sense. That has been a process even for me, but having you along has really helped. It's helped me be able to take all of my knowledge and my experience and get it into tangible help for someone else. So having an assistant actually really, it betters you as a designer. It betters your teaching ability. And then, of course, also you're another arm for me. So all those emails that were going unanswered, I suddenly can answer them. So it was definitely a godsend, and I needed you exactly when you came. So I was very, very grateful, and I've been very grateful to have you for 8 months now, almost 9 months actually. It's September, and you started like January 1st. It was pretty much new. We said, hey, new year, let's onboard you, and so it's been almost 9 months now. And now that you've had 9 months of kind of this real hot and heavy virtual design work, you've seen a whole lot go down in 9 months, especially with me as a new business. And I think that's what also was probably different for you, rather than just coming in as a seasoned designer. No, this was a whole new business. I was learning as I went. I had been in person for so long, and now transitioning to virtual, I was learning everything alongside you as far as the best way to run this business. And there has been ups and downs, and you've been able to see the back end and the behind the scenes of all these ups and downs. Yes. And you've been a cheerleader, but you've also been someone to talk me off a ledge. Sometimes my business is like my baby, and when my business is mistreated, a lot like my children are mistreated, let's say someone's mean to my child at school, I'm ready to fight them. I'm just like, we ride at dawn, who is this kid? And what did he say? And who's his mom? I'm very, very protective and defensive. So I've learned that that's exactly how I'm treating this little baby of mine, this baby business that's only, a year and a half old. And has seen tremendous growth. It has seen growth, what I never even thought would happen. It has grown to now 6 employees and 4 designers on staff. And it's honestly been an incredible ride, but it's also been a roller coaster. I'll tell you that. And so from your perspective then, what's been in your eyes the difference between something you're learning in school, but then what's the real life application differences basically from what we learn in school? Because I know I have an answer for that, but what is your answer for maybe what you learned in school and what you are learning in school and still about to graduate? What's something that you've seen between your expectations? Let's say that. What have been your expectations from wanting to go into this career, getting some schooling in it, but then actually being in it?
Well, before, when I was just in school, I never had stepped foot into an interior design office or into a home with client interaction, that is my number one expectation versus reality. I never knew how clients would react, and that every client is truly different. You cannot treat them the same. In school, you treat the client the same, or you make up your own client. You follow a guideline, a strict guideline, A, B, C, D, E, and you do it like it's laid out for you. In the real world, you have to take the time to read the client and read their needs and listen to them and put yourself into their shoes and into their home.
Right. That's something maybe that every young designer learns real quick, that clients are people with personalities and different needs, and everybody's got a different personality. So that's why in my early social media days of me, a year and a half ago sharing content, I'm like, people have a really big misconception about this career. They think that it's about the designer and it's about our egos and it's about our style, and it's so opposite of that. It's about the client and it's about their home and their needs and their personal style, and it could be nothing like my own. But that's not why they hired me. They hired me because I'm a professional who's supposed to see their needs and meet those needs through what I design. I'm not living in their house. So if I'm not living in their house, why would I design their house to look like mine? I wouldn't. You've seen the customer service aspect of it pretty quickly, that this is a client-led and service business. We are not on our own. We are not an island. We truly are people pleasers in every aspect. We can give our professional opinion and our professional advice and our guidance because we know a lot more than the client does about this field. And that's why there does have to be a level of respect. You do have to understand that, well, what we're doing, especially a seasoned designer for 15 years, I know what I'm doing. So if I design your kitchen a certain way, it's because I know what I'm doing, and that's my experience in this field has led me to all of these decisions that I've made for you. So you do have to trust that decision. It's a huge trust process for a client, but it's also a huge trust process for us having to step into their world and service someone, and kind of all of our decisions are based on someone else, not on ourselves. Is there anything else you thought was maybe a little different than it was in the real world?
I would also say the process is different for every client as well. It's not the process that we go through in school, because there will be mistakes, there will be time changes, because you're dealing with all these people working. It's like a working part of a clock to make sure that the design gets completed from exactly how you want it or for the client's needs. Mm-hmm. It's really a learning curve there, that you're not in control of everything, that you're just a part to make this design happen. So that was another thing that I didn't expect. I thought it was very in order, everybody was on the same page. That is not the case.
And every interior designer laughs at this statement. Yes, we are at other people's mercy for most of our follow-through. Our design can be our design. It can be beautiful. It can be perfect. But it actually has to be executed. Yes. So if we have to wait several weeks for those cabinets, let's say it was a kitchen remodel, which I was part of for 9 years practically of my career, was primarily kitchen remodels. That is a very long process, sometimes a year, quite literally. And I wish I was exaggerating, and I'm not. A year to a year and a half, even, you might have to have this timeline, and that's a long relationship. That's a year and a half relationship with a client, which is why it's so important to be on the same page as them and be able to get along with everyone, because you're going to be having, this is not a short-term relationship in the real world. This is a long-term relationship. They could also be a repeat client. They could move. They could get this whole house lovely, which happens a lot. Love it. It finally got all done. and then they move and they want to hire you again, or their sister bought a house in the neighborhood and wants you to use you as well. It is a continuing relationship. Clients do become friends, but some clients don't. But it is definitely, there is a learning curve to getting along and with everyone for a very long period of time, not a short period of time. You also don't realize when you're in the field that you are going to be developing a relationship with lots of different tradespeople. The parts of your clock, those are all people and trades that you have to communicate effectively with, and you also have to get along with. The construction industry is primarily men. We are sometimes the only women, so you do have to learn to, number one, stay professional between any relationship you have. There is a boundary that we have to stay respected and professional in our field, because we are professionals in our field. All of that to say that relationships really matter in our career. It is relationship based. So whether it's your client or people that really have to technically work for you or work for your client, it is really important for you to be very kind and professional to everyone. Now, that's all talking about in-person design. What about virtual design? What have you seen differently that we're doing now that maybe you didn't expect in the virtual design world?
You were the first design that I ever seen that was fully virtual, which was new to me. And it's new to a lot of people. And a lot of people don't understand the process and how it can be so different from being in person. So I was kind of walking in blindly when I did reach out to you, because it is a whole new world. It was still relatively new for you. And it was very different from what I expected first coming in. I didn't realize how much went into each design and how much thought and time it takes to really make sure a client is happy and pleased with their design.
That is a struggle in the virtual design world. I think when is the time to be done is when have you done your job enough. There's a fine line there. You do have to let go at some point. It is a short-term relationship. So it isn't this year-long relationship. It can be. I've actually had repeat clients for a year that have hired me for every room in their house. It can be a long-term relationship, but the majority of them are short-term relationships. And being able to get to know someone quickly via email, actually, a lot of it is just through plain email communication. There's some videos and other things and pictures we ask for, but it is a lot of just virtual communication, reading lots of emails, replying to lots of emails. And that, I replied to lots of emails when I was in person, so that hasn't changed a lot. It's just the influx maybe of them, the volume of emails have changed, maybe, but there's still a lot of emails to read, and they can suck your time away. And it is still, I think, what people don't realize is they think virtual design might be a little easier. It's not necessarily easier. It comes with just different challenges. There are new ways to take your time, and there's marketing is a huge part of what we do, and that had to be a whole learning curve as well. Is you don't get clients virtually unless you advertise yourself and put yourself out there. So I can't imagine what it's like for someone that's a virtual designer that does not have some sort of advertising in place or some platform in place to advertise what they do. They go hand in hand. These days, most marketing is done through social media. So I learned really quickly that if I was going to be this full-time virtual designer, I had to commit to making consistent content, which is a whole nother part of a job that I never did before. I was very relational. I feel like I can get along with almost anyone, truly. I've not met someone that I couldn't look past any faults and see them for a human being they were, and be able to provide a service to them. Everybody has bad days, so we give a lot of grace to people, especially in a service industry, when they're under an insane amount of stress. Their home is being ripped up. So it's kind of notorious for us to have cranky clients in this field because they're under a lot of stress. Their home is disheveled, and they themselves are personally put out in many ways. They may not have a bathroom or a kitchen any longer for 6 months to a year, and they may be living out of a suitcase in someone else's home or out of another rental, and they are under a large amount of stress. So that's why, being an interior designer in person, it was really important that we were empathetic and easy to get along with and talk to, and hear. A lot of times we were therapists, quite literally, and hear people's issues and complaints and empathize with them and assure them that we do have their best interest in mind, and it is going to be okay in the end, and we know it's really hard right now. So that's what I had a lot of experience in. But taking that now, maybe the time that I took there building relationships, now it's the time I'm taking, turning and trying to be this content creator. To sell myself, number one. I never really had to sell myself before this. That was interesting. To be publicly criticized, also very interesting. Never had that before. To be able to take a lot of negative feedback of me personally, that was also something new. Something that I had to quite literally get used to, and not take things personally for my mental health, to get over the fact that other people are going to see me, immediately judge me, and not like me. So a relationship-based career for 14 years, and then you turn around and go on the internet, and then you get fed to the wolves, quite literally, and you're like, what is wrong with people? I'm just trying my best here. And they will criticize over anything, and quite literally everything. So that was something, I think that was a huge turnaround, to go from in person. Yes, it was challenging. They had its own challenges. Virtual world has a whole new set of challenges. So it's not easier, is what I was trying to say. It's just different. It's harder in different ways. Your client volume is larger. At least for me, my client volume is much larger. They're paying less, so that's why your client volume is much larger. In person, we got paid per client much more, because these were huge projects. A client is spending $200,000 on her remodel, where a client's only spending, what do we charge, $700 for a room. So very, very different. We do have to be able to please quickly here, and get what they want quickly, and have our ideas all communicated to them where they're happy and they feel very comfortable being able to execute this all on their own, or through their own people that they're going to hire to get our design going. So that also comes with some challenges. Okay, how does it feel, Olivia, now that you are 9 months experienced in this field, and you are able now to take your own clients, and you just had your first client?
It really felt great, and it felt like everything that I have learned so far was finally put to use on my own. I felt a feeling of satisfaction almost when her face lit up and saw her space. It really made me remember why I chose this career and why I chose this industry, and I know that everything that I have worked towards, it's so worth it, especially in this job, and how we're able to help so many people so quick in the virtual industry rather than in person design.
That's right. We've helped hundreds, quite literally, just this year alone. Hundreds of clients have come through Julie Jones Designs, and I never thought I'd be saying that, ever. And it's very satisfying. I agree. When you see their face light up, you'll never ever, by the way, get tired of that. It will always be your favorite part of your presentation, is when you're able to show them their current space and then what you've designed and what the potential of what it could be, and them just go, oh, is that my room? Like, what? It's never gets old. It's so exciting to see the pleasure on someone else's face that they couldn't see, that you were able to give them. And honestly, that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do, is so we can offer that to somebody, give them the possibilities and the potential of their space quite literally on their screen that they couldn't visualize for themselves. There's a reason we have a job. People can't visualize for themselves, and they can't see past their own things. They can't see past their own home. They need an outsider's opinion, and you might as well get a professional one if you're going to get an outsider's opinion. So it is very satisfying when we have a satisfied client. Did they have any edits to your room? I'm interested.
They did not.
They did not. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, that's also a win. We have, just for anyone wondering, we do edit their room after we present it to them if they wish. Anything that they don't like, well, you got to let us know. That's it. We don't know unless you tell us, and if you tell us, we'll change it. Quite literally, we do want to make our clients feel like they got a room that is perfect. So if our room that we present to them isn't perfect, that's why we have our meeting, quite literally, is to make sure that we hit the mark and it's perfect for them. If we present a design to you and you don't like, let's say, that coffee table, it's not what you were thinking, no problem. We're going to go get a coffee table that you do like. You don't like the wall color, no problem, or we're going to change that for you. But that's why we do meet with our clients. It's the most important part of our job is, yes, we can design it and we can think it's great, but we have to make sure the client actually likes it. And many virtual design companies do this differently. I found it just best for us and for my clients over the experience of trial and error and learning. It's really just best to talk with them, talk it over with them, show it to them in person. We can see their face. We can also read their body language. We can read their facial expression. That's really important. Whenever I'm presenting, I make sure that I can actually see their face in the corner of my screen when I'm talking about things and I'm showing it, because that has to do with a lot of how they're reading it and perceiving something. So we present our design and make sure that the client does love it. And if they love it, then we've done our job just perfectly, and we give ourselves a pat on the back and say, yay for today. But we don't, honestly, if a client really wants an edit, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not attached to my design. I think that's a big lesson that interior designers also have to learn, is you can't be attached to anything, actually. Yes, you could think it's perfect and you made every decision intentionally, and it really, every single element actually does need to be in your room, or it's not going to be perfect. Like, that has to go out the window, because at the end of the day, it's not what you think, it's what your client thinks. And if they don't like that rug that you spent an hour sourcing because you were looking for the best one, if they don't like it, well, let's put it in the dumpster, let's throw it in the delete and get a new one, and get them one that they actually like. And then they're able to be part of the process as well and say, oh, I'm so glad I got to pick this rug out with you. So that's why we have our meetings. But they are super duper important in the virtual world. To me and my company, it's really important to not just, we are very personal too. We really have designed the room for each client's needs. We comb over their needs, and we really do put a lot of time and effort into making the room perfect for a client. So if I were to just hit send in an email, right, I'm doing them an injustice. I'm doing myself an injustice to have to say, this isn't a personal process. It's good enough for you to look at in an email and judge in an email without hearing any of our decisions. And then you're going to have questions about it, and we're not there to answer them. And, so it to me was a necessary thing. For if I was going to continue this, I had to have that face-to-face. I had to present them with their design, just like I would have in person. So lots of lessons learned along the way. On the business aspect, is there anything that you saw from running the business side of it? You've seen a lot of behind the scenes actually in business, and you have a business AA degree. Is there anything you've learned along the way that you feel comfortable sharing anyway? about running a business, running an interior design business?
Well, growing up, my mom always had her own business. She opened her own business when I was 10 years old, so I always saw her running her own business. She was by herself, no employees. She took the jump, and you can really tell 10 years later how much it paid off and how proud she is of what she has created and all of her patients that she loves. It's like a family, because it is. She takes, with every patient that comes in, like our clients that come in, we take them in as family almost, and make sure that they receive what they are looking for and that they are happy in the end. But from the business standpoint in interior design, I learned that there is way more that can go into it, especially in the virtual world of owning your own business. And that almost pressure, but it's a good pressure to have on you to really make sure every client is satisfied.
Right, because at the end of the day, it falls on one person.
Yes.
And that's a lot of weight on your shoulders. If you are, every small business owner knows this, that anything can get pointed right back to you and be your responsibility. We saw that quite literally this week. Even if it wasn't my client, I was responsible for their sale and for refunding, making that decision. We have to make, small business owners, we have to make a lot of hard decisions. We are trying to do what's best for the company, trying to do what's best for the client, trying to do what's best for our employee, and that doesn't look the same in every scenario. This week I had one of the toughest weeks in my career, and it was choosing to protect the business and the designer rather than the client. And I, for 14 years, protected the client at all costs. And that was very hard for me to have to choose differently. And I had a new, for sure, responsibility put on my shoulders of, hey, it's not just me, right? I would have maybe dealt with it differently if it was my own client, if it was something I just had to deal with. It was only my mental health that was being affected. If it was only my time being wasted. I had a new hat to put on where, no, this is an employee that I care deeply about. I need them to be happy and mentally healthy to service 5 more clients right behind this one who are waiting. And if this is going to affect them this much, which it did, then it's not worth it for me to choose a client over an employee. So that was a tough decision, to know that it was technically kind of hurting the business to make a decision like that, but the overall health of the business internally will be better. What was it like, you being on the other end, seeing that from the inside out rather from the outside in? What has that been like, watching me and other designers navigate clients?
At first, seeing that from my perspective, it was almost scary in a sense. I would be soon in that position. Seeing you having to draw that line, I know it was a hard decision to make for the business, but overall it was the right decision. And I learned that some decisions may hurt right then, but for the future it's going to be what's best.
Right. This first client you had, they were so nice and they loved everything. But there could be one right down the line that doesn't. And that's going to be, it takes a hit on you personally. It takes a little bit hit on your confidence. Makes you definitely more humble, but it also grows you to make you see how to work with difficult people. Because like I just said, our job is it can be a lot of difficult people. We can have, really perfect clients, and we appreciate those so much. You end up appreciating the great clients so much more when you have difficult ones. So that is a reality of our job. Is yes, every client's different, and like we said, everybody's got a different personality, and so you kind of have to be this chameleon and deal with all of it. And one client next to another one could be night and day. So it's about you staying the same, and you being consistent, and you staying professional and kind across the board to everybody. And like I said, adjusting to their personality and their wishes and needs. It just makes you really grateful, number one, for your personal life. It makes you grateful for your family and your friends and those your loved ones. It makes you hold them a little bit closer and dearer, because you realize at the end of the day, your mental health and stability heavily relies on that and not work. So to not cross the two is very important. I've tried really hard not to cross the two, other than working from home and here out in my little guest house. I wish I was working from home. Soon, very soon. They're painting the house today, and they've patched the stucco, so the mold is almost gone. But we're very excited to get in there. But that's about the only line I would cross, is maybe having a workstation at home, but work stays at work, and you can't let the stresses of work and clients and difficult people, you can't let that come into your personal life, because that's when it does affect your mental health. The same could be said about social media. You know, being on social media and having yourself exposed, quite literally, to the world and to the mean old internet, you really can't let that, you can't bring that home with you. You can't let that affect your life and your family. That's the worst thing that it will do. So, I'm so glad that you chose. I know it was hard for you. You are an introvert. I'm surprisingly, some might be surprised, I'm actually an introvert myself, but I've learned, over many years, over my 37 years of being on planet Earth, I've learned how to put myself out there a little bit more, to be more, I think it comes down to confidence too. You'll be more confident. The more clients you have, the more confidence you'll have to talk to others, to make content, because that's a big part of this virtual job, is making content. So that is also something you can do, is come out of your shell a little bit more. You'll see yourself doing that, quite literally. I mean, you're only 20, 17 years from now. You could be hosting a podcast with your assistant, Olivia. So there is lots of growth that happens throughout our life, and the work growth happens as well. And experience in this field is invaluable, quite literally. So that's why also you'll be worth more money as you get older, and as you have more clients under your belt. You have now more experience and more knowledge to then pass on to your client. Therefore, your salary increases with that. So, well, I am so thankful for you, like I said, for coming on and putting yourself out there for people to see and hear you talk. I know that is something new. And by the way, everybody, not every designer wants to be a content creator. That is something that is a whole new world, and it's a whole second job, quite literally. There aren't enough hours in the day. So to take clients and to make content and then also run a business, there really isn't enough hours in the day. So I do appreciate you so much. I'm so glad you're part of my company, and that you came into my inbox 10 or 11 months ago, actually, and that you've been along this really crazy journey with me. I'm so grateful to you. And thank you to all of you who have been listening to us chat away. All right, we'll see you on the next one.